Welcome to The Look and Sound of Leadership, an ongoing series of executive coaching tips designed to help you be perceived in the workplace the way you want to be perceived. I'm Tom Henschel, your executive coach, and today we're talking about humility as strength. Nicole was feeling pressured on two fronts. First, her senior management had made it clear she was on their high potential list if she could stop being so prickly. To that end, they had given her a coach, me. The second front had just appeared. She'd been told she'd be inheriting a small team that historically had been quite low performing. She felt certain her ability, or her failure, to turn them around would be closely watched. I appreciate their faith in me, she said, but boy, it feels like a lot. In what way, I asked. Well, Tom, look, I'm not worried about what would fix this team. I'm one of the people who's been complaining about them. I know what they need to do, but if I go in and start kicking ass like I usually do, I think I'm going to pay a pretty steep price. So what's your plan? I asked. She laughed. You tell me. I feel like I have to whip them into shape with half my tools taken away. Which tools? I asked. Accountability, high standards, difficult conversations. Wait, why would you lose those tools? I asked. You read the 360, she said, referring to the feedback report I'd prepared for her. People want me to stop being so pushy. Okay, I said, but they didn't say they wanted you to stop holding people accountable or having high standards. Well, I don't know. You saw the comments about getting some humility and being more humble. I asked, couldn't you be humble and still hold people accountable? No, she said. Humility is the opposite of accountability. How so? I asked. She said, do you know Clarice? She leads one of the teams. She is the perfect example of where humility gets you. She's conflict averse. She's a terrible decision maker. You can barely hear her half the time. She's a freaking mouse. She's plenty humble, but no one thinks she's effective. I said, you're equating humility to weakness. Yeah, she said. Or like this guy James. He pretends to be so self-deprecating. I don't want to impose my opinion on you. Or I'm probably wrong about this. All that false humility. He doesn't mean any of it. It drives me crazy. I nodded. I understand. But to me, neither of those people sound truly humble. To me, humility doesn't equate to weakness. It equates to confidence. Seriously? She asked. Seriously, I said. My definition of humility is exactly that. Humility is confidence without defensiveness. That's being humble in my book. She considered confidence without defensiveness. What would that look like? I said, it looks like leaders who are confident about their authority, they know their responsibilities, and they're confident they'll get them done, and at the same time, they're leaders who are willing to consider other people's opinions. They're willing to listen. They're willing to be wrong. They're confident without being defensive. Well, I don't like being wrong, she said quietly. And then she asked, is that why people call me pushy? I didn't answer. After a second, she said, do you remember me telling you that I thought my staff meetings had gotten pretty bad, people not participating? Does this connect to that? In what way? I asked. What you said. A leader who's willing to be wrong. That is not me. Maybe they're not talking because I'm not listening. It's possible, right? Well, absolutely, I said. It would be great to explore that. Is that something you and I could talk about, she asked. Well, of course, I said. Okay, but let's stick with the new team for a second. What do I do with them? How am I going to hold them accountable and, at the same time, be willing to be wrong? Well, that's a great question. You first. Well, what does it mean to be wrong? It can't be not delivering. We have to get results. So maybe being wrong could be I don't know. Maybe it's me not having every answer every time. Well, that sounds powerful, Nicole, I said. Could you do that and still hold people accountable? Well, that's the trick, isn't it? She asked. This is possible, right? There are people who do it, aren't there? Are there humble leaders who get great results? Yes, there are many. She shrugged. Well, I'm willing to give it a try. So where should I start with this? I thought a second and then said, I'd start you off with 2 ideas. So these are ideas about leading with humility. The first idea is assess yourself. Measure. Where are you at the moment on your own personal humility scale? For example, you ask yourself, when someone challenges me, what do I feel? Do I feel threatened? Do I push back? In which case, I'm probably pretty low on the humility scale. Or perhaps, do I feel curious? Maybe I welcome the challenge and move towards it. That would put me high on the humility scale. She said, it goes back to the idea of being non-defensive, right? Right, I agreed. She looked up and away, taking her own inventory. Still thinking, she said, I don't think I feel threatened by challenges, but I don't think I welcome them either. They're like something to overcome. Overcome, I asked. Yeah, I think so. If someone challenges me, like in a meeting, I don't get defensive, but I feel my problem solving kick in. I want to figure it out and check it off. It feels kind of like I'm pitting myself against them, like they're an opponent. Maybe I am defensive. Well, that's a great observation, Nicole, I said. And it came from that first idea. Assess yourself on the humility scale. Okay, she said. So here's the second idea about humility as a leader. It goes back to my definition. Humility is strong when leaders are confident in their authority, confident that they're the leader, confident they know their responsibilities, confident they can get a good outcome. She shook her head. I'm having trouble connecting all that confidence with humility. Because humility equates to weakness, I asked. No, because all that confidence sounds like arrogance, she answered. Oh, yeah, I see how it could, I said. But arrogance is a fight for dominance. Arrogance wants to be the only voice in the room. Humility doesn't have any fight to pick. It invites other voices. It doesn't need to dominate because it is confident in its authority. She said, it's not fragile. No, it's not, I said, impressed by her leap. I'm thinking about Clarice, she said. I can't imagine her ever being confident in her authority like that. Does that mean she's not actually humble? What do you think? I asked. Well, you say confidence is half the game, so I guess she's not. And I would agree, I said. What about you, Nicole? Would you say you're confident in your authority? Are you kidding? I think that's what all this pushy, prickly feedback is about. I don't think the confidence part is what I need to work on. I need more and more tools for being humble. Do you have more besides those 2 ideas? I said, I can think of 2 skills that might help you. Great, she said, lay 'em on. The first one is actually something we already talked about, the willingness to be wrong. But you turn it into a skill, a practice. It's a question you ask yourself. How might I be wrong about this? You teach yourself to ask that question all the time about all kinds of things. And when you ask, be certain you're honestly willing to consider that being wrong is an actual possibility. You could be wrong. She turned her head and looked down. After a minute, she laughed. I don't often consider I might be wrong. That's humbling. But you know what I thought of? We could ask that question as a team. When we reach a decision, we could ask ourselves, how might we be wrong about this? That would be a great exercise. I love that, I said, but you understand I'm suggesting this to you as a practice for yourself in your life. No, I got it, she said. And I'm already thinking of where that question could help me, like with my daughter, for starters. Great, I said. Was there another skill, she asked. There was. Good listening, Nicole. And that's actually the second skill, listening. Here's the thing. If your authority isn't fragile, you can listen to other people speak their ideas. And when you genuinely listen to people contribute their best ideas, you create a culture that isn't afraid. You create safety. That's what happens through listening. People who are genuinely humble are good listeners. That's the second skill. She said, and you're not just talking about keeping your mouth shut, are you? Right, no, I'm not. I'm talking about listening for meaning, listening for feelings, active listening. Not my strong suit, she said, at least not at the moment. Humility intrigued Nicole. She worked on it at home, and her family told her they appreciated it. She practiced it with her new team and saw almost immediate improvement in their performance. She felt proud of her shift. She felt confident, knowing she could be wrong, that humility was moving her towards the look and sound of leadership. I want to start this part of the show talking about Nicole. One of my editors, a woman, really did not like Nicole. She wrote, "I'm glad there aren't women like her where I work." And I thought, oh, I bet there are. I think a lot of people are like Nicole. High performers, dynamic thinkers, and yes, some people find them pushy and prickly, but overall, they're winning for their performance way more than they're losing for their style. People like Nicole are not out of the norm in the workplace. If you're in a business that is at all competitive, isn't this what you get taught? They say, if you're going to get ahead, you need to stand out from the people around you. It is a competition. Looking out for yourself becomes a savvy skill. And it is possible some of those attributes may strike people as pushy and prickly, but it's not out of the norm. Many of us are that way. And think about being a team leader. Your success depends on telling people where things are headed. And it is possible that one way you succeed is by being super vigilant and fending off anything that might bump you off course. Some people might experience that as pushy and prickly, but it's not out of the norm. I think many of us are that way. Why am I making this point? Last month's episode was called Leading When Ego at the Top is Unchecked. And I talked about how more and more of us are being led by leaders who are all confidence and no humility. And I talked about how to manage yourself when you're around those leaders. This month, I want to help everyone out there who needs to tone down the pushy, prickly part and turn up the humility part, like Nicole. I think there are a lot of us out there. So I want to give you as many tools as you can. So far, you've heard 2 ideas and 2 skills. Quick recap. The 2 ideas. First, assess yourself against your idea of humility. Begin to pay attention to humility in your life. Track it. Build awareness. Second, assess your confidence. Are you feeling the need to prove yourself, or are you non-defensive? Track it. Build awareness. The 2 skills. First, ask yourself, how might I be wrong about this? That is a skill to practice. Ask it all the time about everything. And second, learn to listen for meaning and for feelings. Improve your skill at listening. 2 ideas, 2 skills. They're going to help you build humility as a competence. In this part of the show, I want to add 2 more ideas, and I want to tell a story. Here's the first idea. I'm going to say 2 words, and just notice whatever comes to mind. Here are the 2 words. Executive presence. When I say executive presence, what words come to mind? Have you got 2 or 3 or 4? I'm going to make a guess about your words. I'm going to guess first that some of your words relate to confidence. I'm also going to guess that none of the words relate to humility. This is the first idea. If you want to develop humility as a competence, then put it in your aspirations. If you aspire to have executive presence, be sure humility gets baked in. If you want the look and sound of leadership, be sure humility is baked in. I have a feeling at the moment, and it may not be true, but I just have a feeling at the moment that humility may not be baked into those visions of yourself. Here's how I think of humility as it connects specifically to executive presence. To me, humility with executive presence is a kind of calm. It is the sense the leader has that the leader is comfortable, like they're thinking, whatever happens is okay, because whatever it is, we'll handle it. It is not arrogance, like, get out of my way. It's an acceptance. We're all in this together, and it will all be okay. There's humility. It is baked into executive presence, and that's the first idea. Add humility to your concept of executive presence and the look and sound of leadership. The second idea is in the form of an epigraph. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. I think a lot of people hear the word humility, and what they think of is turning down the volume, that being humble means being quiet. Being humble has a sense of losing some part of yourself, toning it down. I think that's pretty common. This saying is a great way to reframe that idea. Being humble is not thinking less of yourself. It is not turning down the volume on any part of yourself. Rather, it is simply thinking about yourself less often. So how might you do this? So imagine yourself in your meetings. Imagine yourself in your one-on-ones, in your emails. Which direction is your lens focused? Do you focus on yourself? And if so, I can imagine that might look like hitting your numbers and serving your bosses and doing your best. Focusing on yourself can make you a high performer, right? You're managing your own performance. That's a good thing. Humility has this question for you. In your work, in addition to being that high performer, do you also have room to focus on others consciously? This saying is telling you that to be humble, you need to focus on others more than you're doing it now. So what might that look like? It might look like showing interest. Listen to people. Give them space to share their ideas. Don't treat every conversation like a tennis game where you have to lob back every idea that you hear. Listen to them. Keep them talking. Stop needing to be right. Focus on them. It might look like delegating. You're confident you'll manage whatever comes back to you, and you're confident they're going to do their best. Focus on them. It might look like developing them. Keep your one-on-one appointments. Ask them to present to you. Give them opportunities to present in the meetings you go to, and give them feedback and get them training or coaching. Invest in them. Focus on them. This last idea for being a humble leader, don't think less of yourself. Don't tone it down. Simply think of yourself less often. Put the focus on them. I have a story about this idea of which way the lens is focused. I will tell it to you right after this month's gratitude. Gratitude this month begins with my friend and colleague, Pam Earhart. Pam and I were talking one day. She said she wished I would do an episode about humility. And that was about 6 months ago, and it's been incubating ever since, and now here it is. It's fully formed. I get to share it with all of you. None of it would have happened without Pam, so thanks for the idea. Gratitude to my Los Angeles chapter of the International Coach Federation. Many of you have joined us at our Executive Coaching Special Interest Group. If you are a coach with any interest in executive coaching, please come check us out. It's great. The link is in the show notes. Also, by the way, the chapter is giving me an opportunity to speak on a panel in March about expanding your coaching business. I'm going to talk about podcasting. Another guy who's written 12 books he's going to talk about publishing. A woman who has built a great business around her coaching is going to talk about that. If you're in the LA area, come join us. Again, the link is in the show notes. As always, deep gratitude to people who take the time to leave a review. This month from France, a listener named Hermione is Great left a review talking about how the episodes are just perfect for her as a department head and a mother of a 3-year-old. Hermione is Great. I am grateful that you had the time to leave a review. I hope you are adoring your 3-year-old. Thanks for the review. Thank you to all of you for all your reviews, past, present, and future. Okay, a story about humility and which way the lens is focused. This is a story about a woman named Daryl. I first met Daryl when she was a rising leader and I was her coach. Her 360-degree feedback report had 2 messages that were crystal clear. Number 1, everyone thought she was a high performer. And 2, everyone wanted her to take up more space. With Nicole, she had also been seen as a high performer, but for her it was pushy and prickly. With Daryl, it was the opposite. She was a high performer, but people didn't get enough of her. They thought she was too demure, too reticent, too diminished. Daryl was a smart woman. She understood. People wanted her to speak up more, share her knowledge more, share her opinions more, but she wanted to stay out of the spotlight. She wanted her work to speak for her. She told me it was a value in her life to be humble, and she felt taking up more space was self-centered attention-getting. As you can imagine, Daryl and I talked about this a lot. At one point, I told Daryl I pictured her at a fork in a road. I told her I imagined that she had a decision in front of her. Who was she going to serve? Was she going to serve her own personal preference to stay out of the spotlight? Or was she going to serve the people who were asking her to step up and add value? It seemed like one or the other, herself or others. That suggestion that stepping into the spotlight would allow her to be of service freed up something in Daryl. She began to hear her own value reflected back to her, and it gave her confidence. Towards the end of the coaching, she reflected on that whole idea. Which way is the lens focused, on herself or on others? She found it ironic that when she had started the coaching, she had believed her tendency to keep herself small and stay out of the spotlight was a way of being humble. She had thought that by giving the spotlight to others, she was focusing her lens on them. But what she was beginning to see was that her self-consciousness, her embarrassment, had actually been keeping her focused on herself and her deficiencies. It was, in fact, very self-oriented. It was not humility. At the end of our coaching, I remember Daryl saying to me, "Humility is not modesty. You can be humble and still know your worth." I really like that. Humility is not modesty. You can be humble and still know your worth. If working on your humility skills interests you, I want to point you to a book called Humbitious by Amar Casey. And full disclosure, I wrote the foreword to this book because I really like this book. The full title is Humbitious: The Power of Low Ego, High Drive Leadership. Humble, ambitious. It will expand your thinking. The link is in the show notes. I also want to point you to our library. 3 categories you could search are executive presence, leadership, personal growth, and self-development. And 5 specific episodes you might listen to are achieving authenticity, building empathy, building listening, and there's a skill in that episode that is specifically about focusing on others, how to guarantee psychological safety, and Unlocking Executive Presence Through Emotional Intelligence. All the links are in the show notes, including a link to our tools bin where all our free tools live. Please help yourself. All right, that's it from me. Until next time, I'm Tom Henschel. Thanks so much for listening.